Hey, how's it going? I was just staring out the window for the last 3 hours, and I'm glad you're here. We can now get down to some business. Another episode of sixth grade science e learning. Um, Before we get started, I do want to continue this interactive feature of sixth grade science e learning. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and I would like you to answer them. Uh, so please talk back to your computer or into your iPad. If you don't, I'm going to feel really foolish for asking these questions. So anyway, first question, I would just like to know two things that you enjoy about e-learning. What do you like about it so far? Mm-hmm. Yep, that is kind of surprising. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are good, thoughtful answers. Second question, what are two things that you don't like about e-learning? Yeah, 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 I get that. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, makes sense. All right, let's get down to business. You guys did a great job with the CLA and with the fronts notes. There were some misconceptions with some concepts about fronts, so let's dig into that right now. All right, let's talk a little bit about weather fronts in your face. There we go. There was confusion about these symbols, and they were in the video, but they weren't highlighted. So you can see the four weather symbols are here. The half red circles on a line represent a warm front. The blue triangles on a line represent a cold front. The alternating half circles and triangles pointing the same direction represent an occluded front. And if they're going opposite direction, that would be a stationary front. Speaking of fronts, remember, fronts are simply the boundary between two large air masses, which is why we talked about and studied air masses. So the separation between those two, where those two come together, that is a frontal boundary. Um, in terms of formation, I was kind of looking for a picture something like this. So a warm front, again, is when we have a warm air mass kind of sliding up and over a cold air mass, pushing it out of the way. You can see the symbol for warm front is there. Pretty easy to remember because red often means warm. A cold front, on the other hand, is when we have cold air that kind of slides underneath, forcing warm air up and out of the way. And again, those blue triangles kind of look like mountaintops, which are cold, duh. An occluded front, occluded is probably a word that you don't know. It's similar to the word secluded, and it means cut off, a sentiment and an idea that we're more familiar with now than we were last week. Anyway, it's when we have a very cold air mass coming in and kind of trapping a warm air mass between another cold air mass. So we have that warm air mass getting trapped and forced up and cut off or occluded from the surface of the ground. Occluded starts with the letter O, and so does the word Oreo, which also has kind of a white creamy filling. This is a white cloudy filling. Anywho, moving on to stationary. Stationary fronts are when we have warm air mass and a cold air mass that are meeting. Neither one is terribly strong enough, so they kind of hang out for days. Stationary, you may know, means not moving, similar to a stationary bike. Okay, hopefully that helps a little bit. Let's take a look at the plan for Wednesday and Thursday. And again, these are not due until Friday at noon. Check it. One thing I'm going to ask you to do is there's a front identification PDF that you can complete. This resolution is terrible, but essentially you'll have four maps and two questions for each map. You have to identify the weather types that are present on the map, and then you have to answer one more question that has to do with the map. Feel free to research the second question. After you're done with that, I would encourage you to complete the Earth's orbit and intro research. Here's how we're going to execute this. You're going to answer all of these questions on this side in Notability without doing any research. You've been on this planet for a long time. You might know some of these, you might not know many of them, but do your best and take a guess. And then once you're done answering without any research, then we're going to turn to the internet or our textbook or ebook, and we're going to look up here the answers, and then please submit that on Canvas. Lastly, I will make a Kahoot challenge that you can enter and complete at your leisure and convenience. please, again, do all of that by Friday at noon. There is Chippo. Thanks. All right. Hopefully that helped a little bit in terms of your understanding of weather fronts. And I hope that the assignments that are due Friday make sense. If you have any questions at all about anything, please don't hesitate to reach out, email me. Thanks to those of you who already did that this week. Also, a big thanks to Diet Dr. Pepper and Cheerios for being sponsors of today's show. Make today count.